All right, so we did the review on Friday. You had over the weekend to look it over. I said, I made the bet with you. If it ever gets to or higher, this will be eating pizza.
Wait, is that can it be like what do you call those? Like Domino's? It's like those things that do the
Deep dish or
it's like a noodle.
noodle.
Lasagna? Yeah, lasagna with all the diabetes.
Do you even know what that means?
Yeah.
What is it? What does it mean?
I don't know.
Then why do you say it if you don't know what it means?
I'm just gonna buy a bunch of grease at Domino's.
All right. So getting back to subject matter at hand. So test this tomorrow. I'm going to hand you nearly a duplicate review sheet as what you've already seen. Yes, it's different problems, but it's the same exact stuff. And I said what we would do was Friday didn't have the option. We went over every single question, every single topic. I said today, unless you guys want to do it differently, I said I'm just going to hand it out. And you're going to, at your own pace, do that. Now, if that doesn't work for you, like, no, I really need one more day of review where you get up and you ask us questions about what's going to be on the test, like we did on Friday. And we did every single type. This is what I'm going to ask. This is what it looks like. This is the thing you need to remember. But I also don't want to bore everybody since it's literally going to be a repeat of what we did on Friday. If there is a test you can get a B or an A on, this is the test. There's only one word problem. It's rather lengthy, but it's actually pretty easy if you read it. All right, I'll say that one more time. There's only one word problem. It's not even a proof. It's just one word problem. If you read it and read it carefully, it's a pretty easy word problem. Don't give up on it. Yes. All right. Now I'm not going to show you what the word problems are like right now because then that would be giving away the word problem. Any questions on the review sheet so far?
I forgot how to type in. I kept typing in
Okay, so we'll just do that real briefly. So just remember, if you're solving for a side length, you have a right triangle, and you're solving for a side length, right? Meaning that you have the angle. I don't know. Give me a number. 10 degrees. All right. You're solving for a side, boys. You're either solving for it according to this one, the opposite, the adjacent, or it could be any one of those. I put the X on that. I need one more number, and I'm going to give you that number. Let's say that's, 14 inches, centimeters, whatever. Then that's your straight up. I type in it exactly the way the word appears. So relationship, these two.
adjacent
And that would be.
I'm pretty sure it's cosine.
That would be cosine. I'm just saying it's in your book of truth. So katoa, right? So if you have that right in front of your face, there's no reason you shouldn't get this. So that is cosine. So it's just straight up cosine of 10 degrees is equal to the adjacent 14 over the hypotenuse. That's the ugly one where you multiply both sides by x.
That's the part where I messed up. Like I can do all that, but
Okay, these will only come in two forms, right? It's either the x is on the bottom or the x is on the top. Right, I'm going to write this again. This is not what this particular problem is. But let's say the x would be on the top. That would be the x, and that would be the 14. Or it will look like cosine 10 is equal to x over 14. On both cases, some of you already have the pattern memorized. You only have to look. That's all you need. Others of you don't. That's fine. Just do a little bit of algebra. The ugly one, where the x is on the bottom, we're going to multiply both sides by x. Notice the x's cancel. And you're left with x cosine 10 is equal to 14. And you're going to divide both sides by, and that's the pattern. Most people will eventually say, oh, it's just 14 divided by cosine 10. So we're going to divide both sides by cosine 10 and type that into your calculator, and you're there. I mean, this is of everything we do other than area and volume. This is just simply a calculator drill, right? Do you know what to do? On this one, multiply both sides by 14, right? And then so 14 cosine 10.
So would you put the 14 in parentheses with the 10?
No, it's just, and literally on you've got a TI 84, right?
83.
Yeah, 83, same thing. You're just going to literally type in 14 cosine 10. You don't have to put a multiplication symbol. I don't know about the 83. I know on the 84, you can be really lazy and not even close your parentheses at the end. It automatically puts one. Go ahead and type it in and see if it without putting up.
So for that one, yeah.
Just do 14 cosine 10 and don't close the parentheses at the end and see if it still gives you the right answer.
I won't give you the answer. So
Yeah, but he's got an 83. You got an 84.
Yeah, I have to.
Okay, so that would be the only difference. All right. The other way that this appears is if you don't know the angle measurement, and that's your x. And this is, let's say this is 20, right? Then what changes is what you actually use. Now, there's the long algebra way that everyone, where it comes from, I'll do it over here. And so that would be cosine x is equal to the the adjacent over the hypotenuse, okay? I'm just showing you what you should do and thinking in your head. That what you're supposed to do to solve for x, do the inverse operation of both. So you do inverse cosine x, nobody does this, is equal, what do you ever do to one side, you do the other side, inverse cosine 14 over 20. But these two cancel, you're left with x, and so what you're really typing into your calculator is that. So most people don't even remotely do this. Now, I do want you to set it up so at least you can see it, but nobody does inverse cosine of both sides. They just say, oh, just type in your calculator, inverse cosine 14 over 20. And that'll tell you the angle measurement. Unless your little brother or sister or your older brother and sister has messed with your calculation, I will tell you tomorrow just to confirm. It should be in degrees. I know in pre-calculus, sometimes they go back and forth, but majority of the book is all in radians, but just in case it goes back to radians, you need to make sure. All right.
My dad was playing with my calculator.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, nobody does degrees. If you really do this for a living, nobody uses degrees. Everybody uses radians. Dan, you got a calculator for tomorrow?
I'm trying to find it.
What have you been using?
Nothing.
How did you been doing your homework?
I've been using my calculator in my house.
Okay, but I'm just saying, you are going to bring a calculator tomorrow, yes?
Yeah.
Listen carefully to what I say. I'm not giving out calculators tomorrow. If you fail to bring a calculator, you're not going to be able to do any of the trick. You have to bring a calculator. Yes, I'm being a complete jerk about this, but it is what it is. You got to bring a calculator. I also want you to get used. Dan, you're going to college, yes?
Yeah.
You got to take the SAT, ACT. The math portion of that test is written specifically with knowledge that you got a calculator in your hand. So the person writing the test, instead of doing 2 + 3, they can put in the ugliest numbers possible because they know that everyone has a calculator. They don't write an easy test with easy, friendly numbers because they know everyone has a calculator. My job is to get you to where, for all you going to college, by the time you get to your junior year, somewhere around the end of your junior year is where you take it for real and it counts. Like that's what you're going to college with type thing. Some people take it multiple times. The point being is, my job is by the time you get to junior year, you're not like my friend, Mark Teston, showed up on the day of the test and is like, how do you use this thing? Back then it wasn't a graphing calculator, but it was still a complicated calculator. He didn't know how to use it. He was a pretty smart kid and he did horrible on the math portion because he didn't know how to use a calculator. Don't be that kid, right?
It's gonna be me.
Well, no, it's not going to be you because you already know how to use that calculator better than I do. Your calculator, right? Because you have been using it, right? I don't know if you will take pre-calc or you take, another math your senior year, but junior year, you're all taking algebra 2. Hey, that's next year, by the way, right? You're gonna be taking algebra 2. You'll be using this calculator as well. All right, opinions on what are we gonna do today? Are we gonna do this together? Or are we gonna do this? I'm just handing out the worksheet. What am I doing? What do you say?
Maybe a bit of both.
By yourself, Wes?
Maybe a bit of both.
A little bit of both. Okay, so your job, I will stand here waiting for you to ask me, hey, show me how to do number 4. Let's do number 4 together or something like that. If you don't ask, I'm not going to do it, right? But if you ask, we'll definitely do it together. Yeah.
I'm just joking. I'm playing games.
All right. Hey, don't give up on the word problem tomorrow. Everyone can answer the word problem tomorrow if you read it carefully. All right, nope, e-learners, obviously, it's already posted for you right now. For those of you that have your worksheet from Friday, I'm not gonna collect those, it's a review sheet. If you failed to do that, then shame on you, you didn't get practice, but as always, my practice tests are exactly like what will be on the test. If you can do this right now, you can figure out what your grade is, other than the word problem. You can figure out what your grade is simply by taking this right now. Anybody online right now, e-learners? Anyone? There is no one. So e-learners, you will see the test posted tomorrow as well. But if you have any questions between now and then, make sure you send me a chat or an email or whatever, and I will see what I can do to help you. I'm going to leave this video going today, so it's going to be a whole lot of dead time because I'm just going to be waiting for some kid to ask a question, and then we'll do it together on this. Hey, Danny and Matt, separate. You guys don't work well together. Somebody move. No, I know, but I'm saying you guys get each other distracted way too easy. I want to make sure you're doing this review sheet. Who's moving? You or Matt? You or Danny? 1, 2. Just take your review sheet and your calculator and go sit at another desk. I believe I put on the test, use any knowledge you have from this chapter. So I might give you questions that have, a mixture of Pythagorean theorem, trig, or special right triangles. I don't believe I specifically, I could be wrong on that. Go for it. 15 through 20, I specifically say use special right, and I spelt the word use wrong. How did I do that? Boy, that's horrible. The directions for 15 through 20 should say use special right triangle theorems to find the missing side links. So I'm forcing you, although a couple of those you could use normal trig, technically special right triangles is trig, but not a trig relation or a trig function. Trig ratio.
Instead of use.
Use the. It's like add Italian or something. Use the.
Danny, you need to get more batteries for your calculator. It's dying.
No, it's not.
You said it was.
I thought you said you already lost your calculator. I couldn't find it. It's black. I'm going to I'm going to die.
Did you get them?
I haven't been lying.
Ethan, you're just kind of staring into blank space.
What a failure at Minecraft. No.
I can't even get past the Destiny 2 Forsaken. You're horrible.
Matt, do I need to move you further away?
No. If you move me across the room, I'll just be talking to him still.
You need to be more like Connor.
I'm myself, and I can't change that.
It is what it is. I can take attendance. Well, there's no Seth.
Can we go over like the first problem?
We can.
Can we go over every single one of them? So I don't understand.
That would be bad. All right, here's first one. The first one involves corollary 1 and 2. So in your book of truth, Danny, open it up. Corollary 1 and 2. I forget the other which theorem. The picture looks like this in your book of truth. I just don't remember how it's labeled. So I believe it's labeled H is the middle, and then it's A, B. And it doesn't matter how it's labeled. This part's probably wrong. C, D, and then E. You get 3 corollaries from this. Matt, what's the first corollary you
I
get?
have no idea. I don't care.
Then you need to put in your book of truth right now. By the way, we did this on Friday. So the fact that you still don't know this scares me. The fact that you chose not to write this down or be able to find it in your book of truth.
Weird things I could do it Friday. I can't do it.
Then it should be in your book of truth somewhere. I don't believe I labeled it specifically this way, but it was close. And like I said, the way it's labeled is immaterial to the what you do with the labeling.
I don't have any corollaries in the last 2 or 3 pages.
It wouldn't have been. It would have been the start of chapter 8.
Theorem 8.
Theorem 8.1. And so it's corollary 1 and corollary 2 to theorem 8.1.
I don't have theorem 1.
And you better put this in your book. Because we will be, this is at least 4 questions. And we did this on Friday too, Matt. I'm disappointed. You're like giving away the free test. All right, there's 2 of these. The first one, it doesn't matter which letter you start with, but it involves this letter A, H, and B. You get 3. The first corollary actually starts with the middle part, H. And it says H is equal to the geometric mean of C and D. Geometric just means the square root of 2 numbers multiplied together. Second one, corollary 2, says 2 things. It says A is equal to the square root of C times E, and B is just the opposite of that. That B would be equal to D times E. That is corollary 1 and 2 to theorem 8.1. That's it. There's only 2 corollaries. You get 3 things from those 2 corollaries. That's it. Nothing more than that. If that's in your book of truth, you can. Now you take the question, does this, number 1, look like the picture I drew?
Yes.
No, it doesn't. It's tilted sideways. So you take your paper and you do what? You tilt it so it looks like what's in your book of truth. And then you match things up. Okay, it looks like we have what? A C, we have a D, and we have an H. Which one are we going to use? First, second, or third? First one. So now, okay, you still have to match things together. H goes with what on my picture? 12. Do you see that? H goes with 12. Is equal to the square root of C goes with what on my picture? Times D goes with 16. Okay? Now we have to solve for x. How do you get rid of the square root symbol? Square both sides, right? Both sides. Both sides get squared. How do you get rid of square root? Because you've got to solve for x. X is inside.
144 equals x times
16. Okay. Now what?
You get rid of both sides.
And you're done. Which part did I lose you on? Did I lose you on this step? Take your paper and make your triangle look like my triangle. Now we're just matching things. On question number 1, it gives us 3 values. What do they match with our book of truth here? Okay, then all I got to do is plug in those numbers. H matches with 12, X matches with C, and D matches with 16. So we're good right there, right? The goal in algebra is to get X by itself. I have 2 things I need to get rid of. Sorry, I put X. I put C instead of X. I got 2 things I need to get rid of to get X by itself. I got to get rid of this square root symbol, and I got to get rid of the 16. We get rid of the things on the outside first. To get rid of the square root symbol, we do the inverse of square rooting. We square. If you square a square root, they cancel each other out. They're inverse. It's like plus and minus, multiply and divide. They're inverse operations. So if we square both sides, I'm going to square 12. You can use your calculator if you'd like, or maybe you know this. 12 squared is 144. I'm multiplying by itself. That's what squaring does. When you square a square root, it cancels. In fact, the two erase each other. So I'm left with, well, technically x times 16. I wrote it as 16x last time. Now I only have one thing to get rid of, the 16. That would be divide both sides by 16. The 16s cancel and whatever that math is the answer. Matt, yes, no?
Yes. Got it.
All four of the first ones are done just like this. 4. Number 4 is upside down. You take your paper, you flip it over. I got an X that matches E. I got a 36 that matches C. And I got an A. So I got ACE. Which one has ACE? The middle one. And then can you make a mistake on it? You sure can. But if you're careful and you match it up, very carefully, you're not going to. And by the way, the math is always the same. If the X is inside, you square both sides. The X is on the outside, well, you just take the square root of both things and you're done. Danny? What is it? What does this say to do right here? Well, do that. What did you get? There you go. Wes, you were the one that asked the question.
On this one?
Yeah.
No, that was Dan.
It was Dan? Okay.
I asked about the question. I kept typing it in wrong.
Remember, you can always fat finger something really easy. I always, whenever I do anything with a calculator, I do it twice. And generally what I do is I do the whole problem, right? I probably do the next one and then I come back. That might be not your technique. But if I type it back in exactly 1 second later, if I made a mistake the first time, I might make a mistake the second time. So I give it at least a little bit of time to type it back into your calculator. Everybody good so far? You should know what your grade is right now. What are you going to get on the test? He says he's going to get 100. He doesn't know what the word problem is, but I know he'll at least read it. Some of you might, because how long it is, might give up on it. I highly encourage you not to give up on any word problem. Read it, see if you can figure it out.
Is it about elevation and depression?
I don't want to give it away.
No.
It's only.
Well, let's just say it's going to involve everything that you've learned so far, but it's going to focus primarily on chapter 8 stuff. So that's one of the things in chapter 8.
I don't like that.
And remember, for angle of elevation depression, you look at the horizon first. We sure can. You're good on questions 1 through 4, though? Kinda is probably not what we want. We want, yeah, I got this, or no, I need help. Chris.
So, the hypotenuse is bigger than the.
It's always bigger.
I'm doing the acute obtuse.
Oh, right. It's obtuse.
Okay, so if it's bigger.
And we're talking about when it's squared, right?
If it's acute.
When it's smaller, it's acute. When it's bigger, it's obtuse.
Okay.
And here's your logic with my fingers. Here's a triangle with just 2 sides, right? The third side would be between my 2 fingers. Look at me. So here's a right angle, right? We know that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Now, if I instead of have that right angle, I make it acute, so I'm making it smaller, what's happening to c? And if I make it bigger, large, and that's the idea. Danny, if you were listening, Chris just answered the question. So for this problem, is it acute, obtuse, or right? We will use what formula, Danny? Pythagorean theorem. So to determine if something is acute, obtuse, or right, we're going to use
Oh.
Well, at least for this particular question, we're gonna use Pythagorean theorem. What's Pythagorean theorem, Danny? Affirmative. Can't write it, guy.
Oh gosh, that was horrible.
I know it was.
That's small. Oh gosh.
There, you happy? All right, Danny, stay up here. Okay. So all we're going to do is we're going to take these three sides and throw them in. But here's the kicker. All right, this one's not too bad because of the way. Don't go by the way it looks. Go by which side is larger. Which side is larger? 5, 4, and square root of 44. And by the way, you got a calculator in front of you. You could. And you're right. You don't do it. But I'm just saying, if you are in doubt that the square root of 44 is larger than 5 or 4, put in your calculator. All right. Okay. So we know that which one's A, which one's B, which one's C. Okay. Which one is always C? Never. Okay, it's always the largest side. The largest side, if it's a right triangle, is always your hypotenuse. So we are going to claim for this one that the square root of 44 is C. Does it ever make a difference which one is A or B? Because we're adding. Does it ever make a difference which one is A or B? Because 2 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 2. So it doesn't matter how you add, you always get the same number. So that's why it doesn't matter which one is A or B. So which one do you want to be A, which one do you want to be B? So we get 5 squared plus 4 squared. We don't know if they're equal yet. That's what we're about to find out. We need to take the square root of 44 and we need to square it. Danny, what do we know about squaring square roots?
I don't.
From the previous problem, squaring a square root. Squaring a square root cancels each other. They're opposite, well, technically we don't say the word opposite, they're inverse operations. It's like saying add 3, subtract 3. Both of those operations go away because they're inverse operations. It's like saying multiply by 3, divide by 3. They cancel each other out. They don't do anything. You square a square root, it gets rid of both terms. Gets rid of the square root symbol and the square because they're inverse operations. So all I need to do now is 5 squared and 4 squared. 5 squared is 25. 4 squared is 16. Square root of 44 squared is 44. What's 5 squared?
Oh.
Say again? Okay, Danny, pick any number you want. Now I want you to do something mathematically to it. I want you to add 3 and then subtract 3. Guess what you get? In other words, I can scratch that out. Now, Danny, I want you to multiply by 3 and then divide by 3. Guess what? I can cross that out. Now I want you to take 10 and square it and then take the square root. Guess what happens? It's the same thing. It gets rid of that junk. So when you square a square root, it just erases both the square and the square root. That's why I'm left with 44. Now the question is, what is 25 plus 16? Is it 44? So therefore, which side is bigger, left side or right side? I heard both answers. By the way, you have a calculator in your hand right now. If there is any doubt on a calculator test, use the calculator.
25 to 16 is 41.
So which side is bigger, left or right?
No, right.
Danny, what's the right answer? It is the right side is bigger. So I can put that symbol right here. Now, if you were listening to the conversation I had with Chris, this is what I said. I said that if c squared is bigger, Matt? If c squared is bigger, look at me one more time. Here's my fingers. One side of a triangle, here's another one. Here's my two, Danny, watch. Here's 90 degrees, right? If this is a triangle, we need one more side. between my two fingers, right on the bottom. Can you picture that? Here's a right triangle. We just found out that c squared was bigger. That means instead of it being equal, I got to make it bigger. What's happening to the angle? Is it getting bigger or smaller? Which means it's obtuse. If you can have that picture in your mind, you get this every time.
I said that the first time.
I didn't hear you say it. It's obtuse. If the c squared was smaller than that, then what?
That would be acute.
Then it would be acute. And if it was equal,
That's right.
that's all that is. So you tell me which this is what 9 through 14. I'm not going to put that many. I'll probably put 2 of them on the test. But 9 through 14, are these easy or hard? These are ridiculously easy because you have a calculator. Even if you did this 10 times with a calculator, you'd still have enough time to finish the test. This is a calculator. The issue is if you don't know, that's why I gave you a 36 question review, and I have at least 2 people that I know for sure. I think Ethan is just lazy, but I know 2 people have already finished this right now, and they're sitting here staring at me or reading a book. If you know what you're doing, this is not a challenging test. So please ask the question while we still have a chance to get this right. What number are you on, Ethan? What number are you on?
I just flipped it all the way to the special right.
Those are the hardest ones, aren't they?
Yeah.
Special. You do 16x. I keep getting like, is there a sign?
Do number 16?
Yeah, and then solve for x.
Yeah.
Solve for x and
Yeah. Is it a special right triangle?
Yeah.
I would say that, the special right triangle, I think, are the hardest ones. And it's only hard because there's twisting and turning. There's 2 of them. Questions 1 through 4, it's just one triangle. You only have to match it to 1. With this one, it's either 30, 69 or 45, 45, 90. I'm going to say you go back to your book of truth and you look at what you got in your book of truth. So you got 2 triangles. You got a 45, I'm going to put one angle there. 45, 45, 90. The 3 sides are A, A. Because remember, 45, 45, 90 would be isosceles, so A and A. And then it's A root 2. Once again, I did not have it memorized when I was your age either. It took until probably senior year that I had it memorized. But it's okay because I'm allowing you to use a book of truth. Just make sure you know what page to go to. You won't make a mistake if you flip it over the page. The 30, 60, 90, the side that's opposite the 30 it's the small side, is A. So if you can think of this, if you're trying to memorize it, on both triangles, the smallest side is always A. Hey, the 2 sides are equal here. It's still the smallest. So the smallest side of both of them is A. You'll probably mess up the other 2, until you have it fully memorized. But it turns out that the other 2 sides, the side that's opposite 60 is
A square root.
So he doesn't have it screwed up. I certainly did. It was A root 3, and then the other side. I remember that one of them was double A. I just couldn't remember if it was the. And it is, but like I said, you got a book of truth. It can be written in front of your face. Okay. So all I'm going to do is take my paper, and I'm going to turn it, flip it, twist it until it looks like this. That one's hard. This one has to be flipped like this and then rotated. So this one's harder to do. But you can, if you take your time, you can do this. What side matches up with, here's my recommendation of solving this. On all of these, they're always going to have one number besides the angle measure. What's the only number I got here? Match that with the right side. So that says 16 is equal to 2A, therefore A is equal to, and if A is equal to 8, that means that the long side is, and the short side is, and you're done.
Oh, okay.
Did you see how I did that?
Yeah, I was mixing up like the formulas.
The only one that'll give you slight challenges when one of these, I believe, is a square root or something, but it's still done the same way, and we still know that, you're just using a little bit of algebra. Now, it can get messy.
What is the source for you just did?
Okay. Do you see there's only one number up here?
Yes.
What's the number? Well, agree, but 30 just telling me it's a 30, 60, 90.
Out of 16.
So I'm gonna go, you gotta twist and turn. 16 matches up with what over here?
2.
If you can do that, it's easy.
That's it.
And I just solve for A.
Oh my god.
A is 8. Now it says to find Y. Y is the short side. It says that's what A is. You just found out that A was
8.
and you're done. And this says take A and multiply by the square root of 3. That would be 8 root 3, and you're done.
13.
This is also why people use special right triangles, because once you are familiar with it, it's very quickly done. Yeah,
You just write 8 root.
that's it. That's the answer. Now, if it said, it won't say it this year, but if it later says, give me the exact answer, then they literally want you to take a calculator and do 8 times root 3.
6.
Now, there are harder ones than this one, though. Look them over. Pick one. Wes? 15?
Oh, it's got a square root.
Okay. Once again, it's a 30, 60, 90 twist, turn. There's only one number up here, and that number is? Root 3 is the number. 60 is the angle measurement, right? There's only one side measurement, I should say. Root 3. Root 3 goes with what? That literally means that A is equal to root 3. So anywhere I see an A, I can write. No, I can write just root 3.
Good God. Root 3.
Oh, so he's saying the hypotenuse is 2 times A, but A is root 3, so that means the hypotenuse is? No. It says 2 times A. What's A? So that's 2 times root 3. That is literally 2 root 3. By the way, that A just means erase it and write A root 3. The other one's a little bit more challenging. It says A root 3, which would be root 9, which would be
So,
3. Yeah,
if you're multiplying a whole number by the
square root. It's the whole number
you
square
just
root.
kind of mash them together.
You got it right.
So
you got it
if
right.
you multiply it,
A square root times a square root. It's inside times
you just
inside.
multiply. the
Yep,
number.
yep. You got it. Danny, you feeling comfortable? Good.
Shut up.
Matt,
Yes.
you feeling comfortable?
With this stuff, yes.
Don't forget this. You've already forgotten it between Friday and now.
Yeah, that's because of the weekend. I forget everything.
Or it's because you didn't try on Friday.
I did, yes, actually. I
How
did
much
try.
of this do you remember?
Well, I didn't do any sort of school over the weekend.
I said Friday.
Played video games all
So did
weekend.
I.
And so my
Because of the
brain
snow. I was wanting to play
forgot.
golf, but there's no golf because the weather was crummy, so I played video games and did a little bit of playing. But I knew I had tests on Monday, Tuesday, so I was like, oh,
I played
I didn't do
Assassin's
too much
Creed
work.
all weekend.
I just did nothing.
well, I cried about my lack of a PlayStation 5 and still being unable to buy one. And I refused to buy anything over retail. My friend and I were like, we're going to form this club, not one penny over retail. So we're debating whether or not we'll have it by next Christmas at the rate we're going. So
That PlayStation 5 is so expensive.
I mean, a lot of the games.
they're always expensive when they first come out, but they're outrageously expensive right now on eBay. I'm not spending $1,000 on something that costs $4.99.
So like on 21, you would put cosine 69.
Hold on.
Divided by. No.
Okay. 21. What are you saying?
So you would put integer cosine, right? Whatever cosine.
I got adjacent. I got hypotenuse. Very good. So it is cosine.
Yeah,
So are we finding a side or are we finding an angle? On a side, it's regular. On an angle, it's inverse.
okay. So I got it.
On 21, it says use trig ratios. That was the last thing we did, or the last two things we did, to find the value of the missing side, in this case, x. Sine, cosine, tangent. You remember this? So, toa. Each one of those is sine of x is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Adjacent over the hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent each time. The issue is if you're doing this quickly, if you don't think about where the hypotenuse is, they will stand this one and make it look like this, and a whole bunch of people will get it wrong. Where's the hypotenuse?
On the bottom.
You know what I mean? Guess where some people will say the hypotenuse is? They'll say that's the hypotenuse, and it'll be a silly mistake. Okay? And I'm sure it's on the test because it's a common mistake that students make. There'll be what? There can be. Who was this West question? What's the setup then?
19 over.
What's the trig ratio?
Cosine.
Cosine of 69 is equal to
19 over.
Adjacent over hypotenuse, 19 over x. If you don't remember the pattern, then you got to solve this algebraically. So this is the one where you got to do what to both sides? Multiply by x. First step. The x's cancel. I'm left with x cosine 69 is equal to 19. And the last step, by cosine 69.
So you would put cosine negative 69 divided.
No. The only time you're going to use that negative is when you're finding an angle.
Putting the 19 in the front.
Yeah, no. It's 19 division symbol cosine 69.
That's what I kept doing wrong.
But you've just identified your error. The question is, are you going to remember it tomorrow? And if not,
Well, I'm still doing it
you
wrong.
open up a piece of paper and you say, here, dear Wes, don't be an idiot. Don't do this tomorrow. Whatever it is that will remind you and help you.
Still giving me an error on the calculator. So
Do it again. You did 19 divided by cosine 69. Did you close your parentheses?
oh wait, no, I think I did this. Now let's see. And yeah, there you go.
So I'm just going to say, you need to write a note to yourself because I'm not going to be there to help you with your calculator tomorrow. And it's that familiarity with your calculator, which is why I make a big deal about, hey, you need to have a calculator. Something as simple as this, and this is very simple, by the way.
Yeah.
This isn't even the hard trig. Something as simple as this, if you don't know how to use your calculator, you don't have a chance of getting this right on the SAT, ACT. And by the way, this will be, because this is one of the things that kind of sticks with you, the trig ratios. There's other trig stuff that won't be on it because it doesn't stick with you very well. But this one does. Everybody remembers SOHCAHTOA.
My mom.
Did you ask your mom or dad about this?
Yeah, my dad never had to take geometry or trig, so
But your mom said she remembered this?
no, she didn't.
Where did she go to school?
Somewhere in Texas. Somewhere in Texas, like old school.
I've heard of that city somewhere in Texas.
Yeah. It was like,
Why did they move here to Colorado?
what?
Why did they move here to Colorado?
Because we were in Texas and we just felt like moving because we were getting sick of heat. So we moved to California and then the economy crashed.
And then you decided to move here?
And so we moved to Colorado. And what?
You can have hurricanes on Texas coast, but
Yeah, we didn't live on the Texas coast. We lived in West Texas.
West Texas can get a lot of rainfall from a hurricane, but they're not going to get a full-blown hurricane. Everybody good? Connor, you kicking butt? Anybody show up online?
Magic is good. I have a magic. So
They probably are. Nope, no one's online.
what's that?
Chris, Matt, work. This gives you a chance to ask questions if you're under problems.
I actually get this now.
29. Okay, So the only difference between this and the previous one is this time we're solving for a angle. And I said the angle will be the one that we use the inverse function. All right. So you got two numbers there. You got a question mark. Where's the hypotenuse?
47.
So that's your hypotenuse, H. And the 31 is what? Adjacent or opposite?
Adjacent.
Okay, adjacent means next to. Okay, so step number one is you have to know your adjacent opposite. Now, just be careful what we're doing here. We're not saying the thing on the right is always the opposite. We're saying that the side that's next to the, typically it's an X, in this case they use a question mark. There is an adjacent, by the way, look up here. There's your adjacent side. The adjacent side, notice it touches the question mark. The opposite side doesn't touch the angle at all. The adjacent side is formed, or it helps form that angle. All right, so we're using opposite hypotenuse. Which trig function is that? That is sine. So we say sine, sine of question mark is equal to opposite, which is 31 over 47. And as I said, I'm writing everything out here. Most people, once they see this pattern, don't even remotely do what I'm doing. They just type it into your calculator and they're done. Okay. To get the question mark by itself, in other words, the variable, we take the inverse sine of both sides. So I take the inverse sine of sine question mark. Those two cancel. And then I do the inverse sine of 31 over 47. And after you do about 4 or 5 of these, you realize all you have to do is type that into your calculator to get to your answer, which is, does it say round near 10th or decimal?
Yeah. 41.
So the answer is 41. Did you get 41, Danny?
I can't get rid of like.
Okay, so you got to hit the blue button first. You see it?
And then how do you do the fraction?
You just use the division symbol.
Oh,
Just 31 divided by 47.
so do I just put 7 minus 1?
Yep, 31 divided by, but you type it in exact, that's the power of the graphic calculator is you have to think it through. What do I write first? You write it exactly the way it appears.
How do you write it?
There's no equals. There's just, you see what I put the box around, Danny?
Oh,
That's what you type into your calculator.
I'm going.
Okay. And the reason is because the inverse sign of sine cancels the inverse and the sine, and you're just left with question mark. So what you're really left with is, well, like I said, what most people understand is when you're solving for angles, that's the only thing you type in your calculator.
I got decimal.
And so the only cool thing about, one of the cool things about a graphic calculator is I can see what you just did and tell you exactly what you did wrong. Like on most calculators, why do you have your screen turned down to? All right. All right. Everyone, what's the number one thing you can screw up on your calculator? If you are in radians instead of degrees. So have you ever checked that? Which is why you've gotten all of these wrong, because you are in radians. So start this. Radians, not degrees. Now you what's the button for us to make it darker? I thought it was blue up and down arrow. There, nice and dark. Now I'll do it again. You should get about 41 degrees. Dan, you get 41 degrees? You don't have to, you can hit enter. That's the answer. Hey, Danny, don't give up on this. You can pass this test. Be or higher, we eat pizza. One person be or lower, no piece.
Come on. What if it's Danny then?
You can pass this test.
Danny
If he
doesn't
puts
count.
work in this,
Danny doesn't count.
then he does count.
No.
I fail on
Pizza. Sorry guys, we aren't eating pizza.
What will happen? Will you just leave me out?
No, I'm not leaving it. Every single
Okay,
person in this class get a P on this test.
I already have.
Don't give up on the work problem. Make sure you read it through.
Ice cream, I
All right, remember, e-learners, if you have any questions, send me something. Your test is the same. Don't give up on the word problem.